Hello and welcome to Breakfast Central on a Tuesday morning. What's good? We're happy to be here again, and it's day 2. How time flies very quickly, eh? Anyway, welcome. I'm Joe Hansen.
And I'm Benga Borough, a man of very little words. You know, I was just thinking a short while ago that God in his infinite mercies, when he created us, it's good that he didn't give us like data that you have 1 million words to use in your lifetime that we could speak unlimitedly. So it's really nice. For someone like me that is a talkative, I could have exhausted all my speech band for the year. And when you say, when I come to Breakfast Central, I'll just be, hi, okay. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
That's it.
That's
Okay.
it. You're right.
On the contrary, I am a woman of many words. Good morning, and thank you for joining us this morning on Breakfast Central. We hope that for the next 3 hours, you stay with us as we guide you through some of the biggest stories, some we've been following, as well as new developing stories, and that you engage with us as we stream live on YouTube via News Central Live, or you can tweet at News Central TV. Speaking of being a woman of many words, how many of you in your report card did you write? He's very intelligent, but he talks too much.
I know, I get that.
I can't remember that.
Yeah.
I was always flowing tributes.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a very good boy. Scholar.
Give me an example of what kind of flowing tributes. Because I believe that this mischief did not start at old age.
If my mom is watching, she can testify. I was a very diligent student when I was growing up.
So you were not mischievous at all?
Rascality in junior secondary school, for primary school.
Because you're rolling with rascals. Right?
Yeah, in primary school I was holier than that.
Meek.
I was meek.
Blessed and meek.
Only the meek where everything else.
Me.
Anyway, enough of these Gen Z vibes. Welcome to Breakfast Central. Well, as usual, in our tradition today, we'll be looking at very interesting conversations spanning from the aviation sector. Yes, we have to go back and unlock some things that you need to know, especially the question if you use your mobile devices on air. Especially when you're about to take flight or something.
Oh, on air. Sorry, I thought you meant on air TV.
No, not on air TV. You know, it's quite similar.
Okay.
You know, that's why they have what they call airplane mode, something in between.
Well, we hear from a professional, and then
Let's get to find out. Plus, security breaches, possibilities of seeing what we saw a few weeks ago. How possible is it, and what does it mean, especially for Nigeria's aviation sector? Don't forget that there are other players who were watching that we didn't mention in the entire course of that drama. Those players are players who...
Like air traffic control.
Who are... Exactly. And then the special players, these are the players who their job is just to wreak havoc. In other words, they're just watching their way to, if they could breach their security, that means we can do it too. And these are the dangerous players who might want to cause...
I'm excited about that conversation because I can't wait for us to find out why airplane mode functions everywhere but in Nigeria.
Did you ever dream of, because I mean, lots of ladies when they were growing up, one of their careers out of numerous, I want
air hostess.
I want to be a princess, yes.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
And the only reason, to be honest, was just the glamour that it came with in the terms of being able to fly to different countries. But it wasn't more about me
glamorous?
as more as it was about my younger sister. You know,
and your dad,
yes, exactly. He was with British,
exactly.
So I thought, I'm going to explore, but not as much as my younger sister. My younger sister was one that we were hoping. Right now, she's doing well in the economic space, but not in the aviation. She's flying. Just flying in other colors.
She's a high flyer. Just the way you're flying in journalism and
Thank you so much, my friend. Thank you so much, my friend.
Did you ever think of being a pilot or?
Nah, I wanted to be a lawyer, diplomat, soldier.
I know, I know. It shows.
And I think you would have excelled in all three.
Yeah.
What about you, Joe?
Yeah. For me,
basketballer.
Basketballer.
Regret.
I also wanted to be a technician at some point.
What kind of technician?
To repair TV. But you're working in a TV station, so it's not that bad, you see? You made it in life.
Riga, relax.
Let me shock you.
Let's
finish your own, and I'll tell you
also, I wanted to be a software engineer. Coincidentally, as soon as I finished my secondary school, I enrolled into, technical school / then I also branched into NIT at some point. As soon as they just came out, the moment they just launched in Nigeria, I was part of the first, and so on. So I learned a lot about, I was able to do softwares, I learned C++, SQL, way back Java and all that. But then again, this is where we are.
We are using it. Every morning when we come to work, he ensures that he helps us to clean our tabs.
In between, because you have to take care of your You have to take it. But then again, I had a sister who also wanted to fly, you know, and she also wanted to be, and good enough, she was a pilot. I mean, she is a pilot. She stopped flying now.
Well, I have a friend who's a journalist, an ace journalist that you all know, and her childhood ambition was to be a fella dancer.
Yes, I know her.
You know,
she was very serious. I wouldn't even think it's this person.
You would never imagine it's who we are talking about.
He was very serious.
Very serious about wanting to be a fella dancer.
Anyway, we've decided to, let me use my shoulder to explain. We decided to loosen up a bit this morning. Now let's go into the stories. Wake up conversations. Don't forget to drop your comments, or 2 or 3 anyway. Just go on all socials. You could also drop it on the YouTube where we're streaming live as well. We're streaming live on Facebook. Check us on X, and then check us as well on other socials. But then again, let's start off with our very first conversation, which has got to do with a big video. I call it a big video in the sense that it's a video that emerged yesterday. It came online. It did show a police officer who was driving and decided to put on his video camera. While he did that, he spotted a junior colleague extorting, as it were, a commercial bus driver.
Well, is it extorting or he was collecting bribe?
It's extortion.
So, collecting bribe and extortion are 2 different things.
You know.
Collecting bribe, it was offered and he received it.
Okay.
Extortion, there's the use of force.
You know, why I use the word
holding
extortion?
a firearm could
Interpreted
be
as force.
interpreted as
You are right.
extorting.
Yeah,
You are right.
because what happens is what we're going to see in that video in a short while is that when these things happen, it's like the commercial bus drivers know that they have to give them. If you talk to these commercial bus drivers, they'll tell you, while I'm making money, I have to set aside money for police officers at checkpoints, money for Agbero. In case
Even the everyday Nigerian boy or girl that's in Bola. If you're going out on Friday, you must arrange in your pocket because you think, I need to have cash. Let's
watch the video.
Let's start it again from the beginning.
Yeah.
We promise you that's not how it sounded. You did not say give him the money back. Yeah, but
we'll work on that.
Yeah, literally what he did, if you watch the video clearly, like Joe explained, the police officer was driving, the senior one turned on his camera, saw the junior police officer just collected something quietly into his pocket. And he just called him. He wound down and said, yes, give him the money back. And then if you watch the extended version of the video, he chastised him even further, asking him, why did you collect money from him? And the police officer, in a bit to defend himself, tried to explain that, no, I did not force him, or he gave it to me. Say, why did you do that? Basically trying to say that, you know, this is an unacceptable practice. And it's become an issue because the Nigerian police, unfortunately, for the longest time, has been known to receive bribe on the road. Now, that's not to say that all Nigerian police officers do that, but there's almost a subconscious expectation that when they are telling you to park and they're asking you for papers and doing stop and searches,
especially on the highways,
they want to collect something. So people commended this man, saying, you know, at least if one person stands up to him like this, if each one can reach one, then each one can teach one. That the sanitization that we're expecting to see in the Nigerian police will not come from the outside, will come from the inside, where men of integrity will stand up to this bad behavior, call it out for what it is, and ensure that the dignity of the Nigerian police is restored to what it is. Because the truth is, the police is working. There's so many good Nigerian police officers. There's so many amazing feats that the police have achieved. But unfortunately, it is small, the little foxes, you know, that spoil the vine. I would call them these ones, the ones who stand on the road to collect bribe. So yeah, kudos to that senior police officer. But is that enough?
And it's not enough, and it's high time we do something about it. You know, the things that anomalies that we've normalized in Nigeria just because of ease of, you know, movement, and you really don't want to waste your time. That's why a lot of these commercial drivers, when they resist, they have their time wasted, or they would just delay them for no reason, look for one issue or the other. That is, so some of them just pay to facilitate movement.
Especially when you have flashy cars now.
I've been on a road trip from Lagos to Accra, Ghana, and anytime you go through that Badagry axis, and this is not the Nigerian police alone, it's Nigerian customs, NDLEA, uniformed personnel, every 100 meters, less than 100 meters, there's a checkpoint, and this road transport workers, the private ones that apply into country, they don't even bother. I'm sure they passed on the cost to the consumers because they have envelopes at every junction and it's still happening up till today. There are YouTube videos of foreigners that did the West Africa drive, and it's appalling. There was an American couple that drove from Lagos all the way to Anambra. The checkpoints, it was really messy, and you can't say the authorities don't know anything about it. They've just turned it to what we term in local parlance work chop. That is where you work, that's where you chop, and it's bad for our image. It's bad for security. It's a terrible situation that has been going on for years, decades. So, who's going to bring an end to it? Because it's almost a culture.
It is a culture.
It is a culture.
It is a culture.
Yeah. How we know it's
you
a
say
culture?
who's going to bring an end to it? I think Mr. Kayode.
I'm not sure he's ready to fight.
It's a culture, because how we know it's a culture is like saying whenever there's no light and then they bring light, we all shout up NEPA. Up NEPA is a culture. Same way this is a culture. Since I was born, I mean, as a kid up until now, what we've been seeing back then, just like we're about to show to you, or we showed a glimpse to you in the video, is the same thing we see till today.
It's terrible.
Where you pass and the police say, and now it's only that they kind of like, let's use the for want of words, they kind of like funkified, it.
Anything for happy weekend.
Happy weekend.
Anything for the
it's
boys.
just happy weekend, sir.
the
Happy weekend,
most
and so
interesting
on.
thing
And then it makes you lose. Do you know what it is to beg? It means you're losing some level of your dignity. And then they normalize this. It's really bad for the uniform. It brings a lot of disrespect to the uniform. Because if you go to other countries, and it's not about, Sena climbs. Let's compare ourselves with Ghana, for example. You hardly see this sort of things in Ghana, in Uganda, for example. It really doesn't.
So there's
happen.
culture.
So we can do better.
There's culture, but there's also the fact that they are not paid well. They're not paid properly.
That's not an excuse.
I'm not using that to excuse. However,
it's a voluntary service.
Nobody
conscripted
do you know how many people went
police.
into the police force because they did not see any other?
I've had this discussion on radio when I said, people at the airports, they are frontline. Your airports is like a footmat to the country. It's the first impression and last impression you get in the country. So they shouldn't be asking you, Auntie, what did you bring for us?
I'm not also trying to...
And then people called in and said they don't pay them well. Who forced you to take
So
that
I'm
job?
also not trying to hold brief for the police. But you see the way that we say that the government, the people have the government that they deserve, or the government is a representation of the people. I think that the police is also a representation of the people. And I'll say this because that culture is not just a culture with the Nigerian police. Like you've mentioned, you go to the airport, you go to use the bathroom, somebody gives you tissue paper,
you
and
expect
she's smiling and waiting for you to give her something. Somebody helps you move your trolley, they're waiting for you to give them something.
These days you are even skeptical of greeting.
Yes.
Ordinary
good
morning.
Morning, bro.
Bro, Alpha. People are waiting for you. So I think it's a culture that we need to do something about. It's an underlying thing in our culture that we need to remove. That's the thing where people feel like,
we really need a
serious.
I have a friend that works in an international development agency. She's American, and she said, South Sudanese people are so proud. You go to a refugee camp. These are people that have lost everything. They still invite you to their tent.
Yeah, you have to take it to
a cup of coffee.
Yes.
Holding yourself with such high esteem and
hospitality.
You see able-bodied men, just because you said park here, it's not even your parking, or just because you happen to be there, you expect me to buy bread. Yesterday I had buy bread for me. Me say I don't chop bread. Buy bread for me. I don't want money. It was even giving condition. I don't want money. Just buy bread for me.
One of those people are once they stand outside at the eatery, it's like you have to buy bread for them. Or the ones that can't you remember during the fuel scarcity era where some filling stations were now selling meat pie before they would give you fuel? They tell you, buy meat pie. Yes. During fuel scarcity, we've been through a lot. So I would say it's a holistic change that we need, not just with the police, but of course, let's take reactions from
Not all buy bread for me.
Fola Joanne Nelson says, Government are not ready to reform police force, or government is not ready to reform police force. When they are ready, they will compulsorily the English is...
He meant they will make body cams mandatory and compulsory.
Yes, I'm just trying to phrase it better. Okay, they will make body cams compulsory for officers on patrol or on duty. Once your body cam is tampered with and you're accused of a crime, you're automatically guilty. They won't do that because they're using them for dirty jobs. Well, there's that. There's also the fact that...
I'm not even sure it can.
I don't even know.
Did you see the last elections, BVAS? BVAS, they uploaded bathroom slippers.
Someone uploaded a selfie. BVAS. Personally,
so is this people you want to give body cam?
I don't have issues with these ones. I see it as a tip since they are underpaid and it's not compulsory.
No.
The extortion I have issues with are those first ones where they kidnap people and demand for a certain amount of money.
That's the highest level.
Well, Pedro Isosa says that.
I don't agree.
That's the highest one.
Well, this one says, not moved, not impressed if there's no strict penalty, not just camera gimmick. That's what this one says. Ochendo Ifechukwu says, can we have these good senior officers be on patrol, leaving their cozy offices? I'm ashamed of the current breed of policemen, especially on our southeastern roads. That's what Ochendo Ifechukwu says. And then the next tweet from Larry GR, it says, give him the money back or he should be arrested so others will learn. Nothing meaningful here and can't change the corruption. Nigerians, you do, you damned. You don't, you are damned.
He's saying consistency. That officer is not going to be there 24/7.
But he
and
did
he's
something.
not going to check all the 1,000 checkpoints.
But at least in the course of his driving, he's doing something.
I agree.
So now this man that he told to return that money, the next time a driver passes, he will be skeptical. He would think twice.
He will only collect money when it's back-to-back commercial buses.
All that one you're saying doesn't change anything.
No, but what big guy said is valid because we're not going to the root cause. We're treating the symptoms.
That's it.
So
and I agree. I agree. We're just treating the symptoms. The root cause is what we know, and it's the same thing. Reform the police, which many have said the police needs a reform. And if we look at it in totality, we kind of think the same, that it should be reformed.
Yeah,
it's overdue.
Police officers should not be buying their uniforms and their shoes and so on.
Yes.
And then they shouldn't be crying that, they've been paid, mega sums. Just
pensions also.
So it's not just reforming the police, also doing away with the culture of bribery. And it's not just at the police. If you're watching this, those people who have to pay just because you need, or you ask someone to pay because you want to bring their file to the top. You're not different from these police officers who stand on the road to collect.
I also think minimum entry, regardless of officer, leader, or other ranks, should be
even in schools back then, university back then, at the front, the alpha.
Handouts.
Bring it before. What do you have? Bring it. Look at it. Guy, you're not ready.
Anyway,
it's a lot. Anyway,
it is a lot. But yeah,
it's good.
Let's move to our next story. And this story, very interesting one there. Now, T.J. Omori, popular director, video director, very talented one at that, but who's had to, unfortunately, be treating kidney issues. He's had to be on dialysis, and he shared his experience talking about how much he's paid so far in cost of dialysis. And there were reactions to that has now sparked a broader conversation as to healthcare, in particular, the cost of dialysis treatment in Nigeria. Dialysis is about 100K plus per session, he says. Sometimes you need 3 sessions in a week. Minimum wage is 70K. Knowing these facts brought me tears in the hospital because no hope for the common man. This was the main tweet, and there were reactions and responses to this particular tweet. So let's see the response to this tweet. No, this is not the immediate response. There was a Boala tweet, I believe, or someone else. Yes. Daniel Boala says, Ashiwaju cares. President Tinubu expands healthcare access with subsidized dialysis. But this wasn't the main one that caused the reaction, but we're just going to take it. President Bola Tinubu has approved a landmark subsidy to ease the cost of kidney dialysis for Nigerians. With this intervention, the price of each dialysis session has been reduced from 50,000 to just 12,000, bringing relief to thousands of citizens battling kidney-related diseases. It then goes ahead to list the ones that have this access. He said this subsidy has already been implemented in federal medical hospitals, and then he lists Federal FMC, Ebute Metta, Jabi, Abuja, University College Hospital, Ibadan. And then he goes on to list University of Maiduguri Teaching Hospital, the FMC Owerri, FMC Abeokuta, FMC Lagos. And he lists a number of all the hospitals that are, that are involved in this. says more federal medical centers and teaching hospitals will be added before the end of the year to widen access nationwide. It will be recalled that last year, President Tinubu also approved free cesarean sections for pregnant women in federal hospitals, a bold step aimed at boosting maternal health and reducing preventable maternal deaths. Together, these measures demonstrate the president's renewed hope agenda in action, ensuring that no Nigerian is denied health care because of cost. But this isn't the main tweet that caused an issue.
Yeah, so let's just go into it.
The main tweets that he responded to him after he put up
to
the
Mr.
cost.
Boyle.
Yes.
Had to be from...
No,
anyway,
not to Mr. Boyle, to CG Omori.
Yeah, when he put that up, the special assistant on social media to the president who was appointed, I'm talking about D. Olusegun.
Yeah, what was his actual tweet?
Actually came out under TJ Omori's statement and tweet there. He came out and then said that in federal medical centers, all around the 6 geopolitical zones, dialysis costs 12,000 naira per session under this administration. Please, he told TJ Omori, please verify. And
then there was a response.
There was a response from another person who happened to be the bearded doctor. And he said, this is not true, sir. I just verified from a federal medical center in Southwest, and dialysis isn't 12K. First session is around 100K, and subsequent ranges from 70,000. Is this a new initiative? And then he went ahead to say, there is no federal medical center in Nigeria that does dialysis for 12,000 naira. Let's be honest and state facts. And this led to further conversations from every other Nigerian. In short, even TJ Omori came out and made it clear that, listen, that amount you're calling, it's impossible. It's not what it is. And then you have people from different states where you verified that, oh, it's 12,000. People came out and said, no, that's not true.
So I believe the president gave an instruction
yes, August 11.
Implementation has not kicked it.
Okay, so I think, again, like I would say, two truths can coexist. That truly, TJ Omori is paying 100,000 or almost 100,000 for dialysis weekly, and not just TJ Omori, tons of Nigerians who have to get dialysis pay that much weekly, or maybe for every treatment, not weekly. I also believe that the president did give up, because earlier in the year, this information was rolled out, where the president had said that they were reducing the cost of dialysis, so basically giving a subsidy on dialysis treatment to the tune of 12,000 naira. So yes, both of them are true. However, the president's subsidy was not rolled out completely nationwide. Yes, in the 6 geopolitical zones, but in 11 hospitals. Can 11 hospitals cater to the hundreds of thousands of people who need dialysis treatment? So yes, it's a positive step in the right direction, but might feel like a drop in the ocean. Because if you also check the reports of people under that comment section, there are those who agreed that they had benefited from the 12,000 naira dialysis subsidy treatment. Yeah, the subsidy given by the federal government. However, there are also those who had said their experiences. I saw someone who said that the first dialysis treatment is 100,000 naira, subsequent 170,000. So we agreed that it's a range between 70,000 to 100,000 on the average for Nigerians. So he was speaking from his own perspective, from what he knew to be true. He wasn't lying. It's just that that's not the reality of everyone in Nigeria.
So then again, that brings about the question. I think August 11 this year, the president has said subsidy on all dialysis about 76%, which means from 100,000, it's coming down to about 12,000 naira per dialysis. Some need three in a week. And while TJ Omori said that, and he was actually corrected by the special assistant on social media, you saw a lot of Nigerians coming out for him. And the reason is because, one, the reality mentioned on paper and in the print or newspapers, and we as journalists, where we do say, compared to the reality on ground, are completely quite different. And they're different because a cross-section of Nigerians, if you take a poll, are saying that 12,000 naira does not exist. However, some medical practitioners have gone ahead to mention that 12,000 naira only exists in these federal hospitals because there's only one machine that offers that price, and only one, and that one cannot cater to the number of people that come. So therefore, they need to also go ahead and ensure they get their treatments from other machines. But whether we go back and forth, in as much as we're still going to take reactions from Nigerians, what we're saying is, it could be one, like Oliver said, the president has given the direction.
And they
has
have
mentioned the
implemented
command and
it.
said,
It just
listen,
cannot go round.
implement this. Let's help Nigerians who are battling with their health crisis to be able to manage themselves. The reality is that the implementation is not where it should be.
I mean, my take would be,
that's it.
It's a good thing that this conversation is out there. It's very important. We're talking about healthcare, and it's made us to reassess the president's promise. I mean, the president, in his, I'm sure when he gave this directive, he didn't know the nitty-gritty of the issues with implementation, with the number of dialysis machines they have, the number of people that have access to it, and all of that. So right now, the Ministry of Health needs to go back to the presidency, or they need to have rethink. They need to overhaul of the dialysis system in all federal medical centers and general hospitals, and make them widely available to Nigerians. They need to also increase the number of dialysis machines they have, and make this subsidy holistic. I mean, when we're buying petrol under subsidy, it was the same price. It was widely available across the country. So if you're going to do subsidy for dialysis, make it readily available for all Nigerians in need of this dialysis.
I agree. But let's take a look at some of the reactions very quickly and see what Nigerians are saying, how they reacted to that back and forth between the talented music director and, of course, the essay to the president. Olusegun Amuneke. See how he typed verify with full confidence, telling lies and deceiving people. Well, cute Cassie, let's be honest, he did make a statement and saying verify, but I think he was speaking off the edges that the president had, gone ahead to approve that all dialysis should be reduced from XYZ amount, which is 100,000, 70,000 to 12,000 naira. But then again, which a federal government, only one federal government machine for 12K that was provided in UBTH, and that's it. UBTH, and we have 50 plus patients waiting for dialysis every day. Chronic kidney disease and its prevalence is something the government should be concerned about. Thank God for private hospitals that are venturing into hemodialysis. That is why most patients are surviving. Dialysis is too expensive, not just because of how expensive the machine is, but because of the consumable that needs to be imported. And we all know that gist with importation in Nigeria. Federal hospitals are sending their patients outside to do dialysis because they don't even have machines to do it, because all the machines are faulty. Every day someone dies because they can't access the machine or do not have the financial aid. How many federal hospitals have the SLED machine? Then she goes ahead to say rubbish. This is coming from a place of pain, by the way, and I think we do understand how she feels. Who doesn't know by now that there are paid people currently whose job description is simply to spread lies? I don't know. Are you talking about the people who are commenting in the group, or I don't know? Anyway, Niekan says, thank God for the awareness. Kidney disease patients are really suffering in this country. Healthcare in general. No coastal road. No, coastal road is more important. Nigeria is currently designed not to benefit the common man. And let's put a pause to this. I think if you look at it with a different eye, you might also try to get the sense of what Nathan is saying, that there seems to be more important issues to deal with in the country. And we've also mentioned it here. We've talked about the doctors going on strike. The good news about that is that the federal government has decided to eventually meet with the doctors and see what they can do, have a round table and sort out their differences. So we're happy with that. So we hope that the NMA and the likes will definitely come back and give us a feedback on what's really happened. And then again, you have the health sector, which we've mentioned as well. Remember, we also had a drawing board on that, which is very important. But
critical and important, because all this infrastructure.
Yeah, but you wonder
who will use it if they're not.
Exactly, they're not alive. If you're not alive, how would you drive? How would you
I
use
want
the
to also
road?
make reference to one of the tweets had talked about inadequate machines, and I think that's very important. So when this was announced earlier in the year, the Punch newspaper had done the research to analyze this, and in part of the research, they talked about how, yes, it was with good intentions that the presidency has said that this dialysis treatment will be subsidized to the tune of 12,000 naira per session. However, the inadequacy of machines will hugely frustrate the possibility of this happening. For example, in Nigeria, there are about 25 million people projected to be living with kidney issues, and of these 25 million people, 230,000 needed treatments like dialysis or transplants. Now, imagine having 354 machines in the whole of the country to cater to 230,000 people that are living with dialysis, that need dialysis in Nigeria. So at the end of the day, Is it a great initiative? Yes, absolutely great initiative by the president. However, the applicability of it is another question. How realistic is it to say that dialysis is actually 12,000 naira per session? I'm glad that
you don't have enough.
Yes, we don't have enough machines. So I'm glad that TJ Mori brought it up and that this has sparked the conversation. What this should do is not to be used as a cheap way to score political points.
Yeah.
It should be a means for us to reflect as a
politics.
people. If, just like Bola and the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu-led government genuinely care about Nigerians like they often say that they do, it's a time to go back and introspect and say, what can we do to ensure that this policy is being implemented nationwide? It's one thing to say that you're rolling out subsidized dialysis to the 6 geopolitical zones, to 11 hospitals with a plan to unroll it to more by the end of the year. However, if you have only 354 machines in the whole country to cater to 230,000 people, how applicable is that?
All of you, even going as far as saying 352, it's not up to.
354.
54. It's
according
not
to a research by The Punch.
Yeah, according to research by The Punch, but it's not up to.
Sometime in March, yeah.
Yeah, but it's not up to, apparently.
And some
because,
of them
because what they've
are
seen,
definitely faulty.
And that's what some of
even if it's 354 in a country,
it's grossly inadequate.
It's grossly inadequate.
That's what I'm saying. A country of over 200
if they've done their
billion.
research and Punch newspaper comes to tell us that it's 354, that really is a drop in the ocean.
So this is where communication really stands. I mean, I wish Dan Ogwala can buy out time to join us on this conversation, because sometimes one thing that people have discussed heavily about this administration is the fact that they always say they're so quick to defend. And it's starting to look that way.
But the reason is because from Mr. Brawler's perspective,
yes,
it's his job. And on paper, the president has given that
we agree.
instruction.
And it's not just on
paper.
paper.
But he didn't just get the breakdown, the details of implementation.
We agree.
Which is lacking in his communication.
We agree. So that's where we're going to that. It's his job to talk. It's his job to speak for the presidency and interface. But I always say this, there are ways you interface, Benga. There are ways to simply say, okay, you've come out. Oh, okay, by the way, the president did this. These are the hospitals. However, the president, or we have decided that between so and so, we will look into this and ensure that there's something called assuring the people, because people who are talking on ground, you can't take a cross section of Nigerians on all socials who are saying the same thing, and they're even telling you, come and verify it for yourself.
Is also important.
They're telling you, come and verify. So I think one thing the administration needs to work on, I mean, it's just a suggestion, because everybody has his own, decision to make. One thing they need to work on is, while you make policies, follow through.
Exactly. It doesn't stop at making policies.
Yeah,
right?
Just follow through.
The full picture when it comes to real transformation is not just releasing the rightful policies, but ensuring that these policies are implemented and followed through, like we've said here. But we'll continue to talk about this. Let's share with you now what our top stories this morning are on Breakfast Central. This morning on Breakfast Central, Edo PDP alleges BVAS manipulation in by-election aftermath. And away from that, we'll be analyzing Nigeria's aviation sector, looking at the critical things, especially with Quam 1, Quam 2, and hopefully no Quam 3. We'll be also speaking ahead of News Central's Town Hall series, the platform we have to hear the voices of the people. RMAFC announces revenue allocation formula review, and we review the newspaper front pages. Stay with us for all these and more. The People's Democratic Party has outrightly rejected the outcome of the recent by-elections, alleging sabotage of the BVAS system and electoral malpractice by the ruling APC. The by-election was held to fill a vacant seat in the Edo State House of Assembly. And of course, we'll be talking about this, looking at the BVAS, which is the bimodal voter accreditation system that was deployed as mandated by INEC to ensure voter authenticity and authentication, as well as transparency.
The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, declared APC's candidate winner in the keenly contested poll, but the PDP says the process was anything but transparent. They're calling it a digital hijack of democracy.
Now, the PDP, in its rejection of the exercise, of course, has claimed that the BVAS devices were compromised, alleging that data was manipulated, voter accreditation was sabotaged, and that APC operatives colluded with electoral officials to rig the process digitally. Joining us now to get more reactions to this development is the Publicity Secretary of the PDP in Edo State, Honorable Chris Nehikari. Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Good morning for having me.
All right. Let's start with the core of your allegation. You've accused the APC of sabotaging BVAS. Can you walk us through the specific evidence that your party has uncovered? Because, you know, the ruling party would believe that this is just a smear campaign, or, you know, another way to interpret your party being bitter at the fact that it didn't come out tops in the elections.
I think, first of all, I need the background. The election was not an election to the House of Assembly. It was two by-elections in Edo, one to the Senate. That is where the governor was before he became governor. The seat was vacant, and also one to the National Assembly, that's in the House of Representatives, where the deputy governor was before. He too left the seat to become deputy governor. So those were the two vacancies we had, Senate and the House of Representatives election. That is what we did. One for the Edo Central and one for the Ovia Federal constituency. And with that background taken care of, it's also good to also understand that even the governor, Senator Bevolo, when he went to cast his vote, he complained about his the BVAS. But well, that was part of the acting they were doing, as if oh, I'm not happy with this. There's a problem here, a problem there. But the truth of the matter is, it was a complete sabotage by INEC. The state rec, we had rejected him before. He had done the same thing in the last governorship election, whereby he turned himself into a coalition agent for APC and changed results that were coming in from the units and wards. This time around, the rigging started right from the units. First and foremost, they sent in their thugs, they call them vigilante, they sent in the police, they sent in the DSS to shoot into the air, to scare away people, drive away people, and then obviously did not use the BVAS to do the accreditation I was supposed to do, and then filling in figures into the result sheets indiscriminately. And that's why you notice that in some wards or some units that results, when the results have been announced, we're having things like APC 600, PDP 0. An election that took place for about 5-6 hours, it's impossible to accredit using the BVAS machine and then vote more than 300-400 people within 5 to 6 hours, because each process takes at least 2 minutes. These are things we've gone through over and over and over again, and we all know the procedure, we know the protocol involved. And not only that, we also have people that saw these things happening. And to also perpetrate the fraud they were doing, INEC deliberately refused to print our party agents' cards. They asked us, demanded for us to send party agents from each of the units, setting up number, each of the local government and each of the wards. We did all those things as requested by INEC. And INEC, in part of the compromise, they now only printed 11 cards, agent cards, and then barred all our other agents from going near there were 54 wards in Edo Central, from going near the polling units, while APC and their thugs had a field day writing results, manipulating BVAS, and doing all those things, and made it very difficult for us to have a free, fair, and transparent election.
I mean, Honorable Chris Nehikari, these are very serious allegations that you've leveled against the ruling party and, of course, the Independent National Electoral Commission, as a result of what you said, is also complicit in this. Would you say this allegations of electoral malpractices happened in the two by-elections, the one for the Senate and the House of Representatives, and also you did indict the State Resident Electoral Commission as being part of this whole rigging exercise. Have you made your complaints known to the appropriate authorities, and would you be challenging the results of these elections as the People's Democratic Party in the courts?
All right, before you respond, Honorable Chris, we'll go on a very quick break. I'll take your response when we return.
You're welcome back to Breakfast Central. And this morning, we're currently looking at the by-election aftermath in Edo State. And joining us this morning is the PDP Publicity Secretary in Edo State, Honorable Chris Nehikare. Honorable Nehikare, just before we went on that break, I wanted to know if your allegations of widespread electoral malpractices applied to both the Senate and the House of Reps by-elections in Edo State. You also mentioned the State Resident Electoral Commission of INEC being complicit in this electoral malpractices. I want to know if if the PDP will be making a formal complaint and contesting the results of this elections in the courts, because these are very grave and serious allegations.
Thank you very much. You see, all the political parties standing in the gap for the people, these are things we take very seriously. And as we speak, we are gathering the evidence as usual. And we've not made a decision yet, because the truth of the matter is, we don't even trust the courts. Most of these things, it's amazing when you say BVAS, which is probably the most important tool in our democratic process. When you take evidence of these to court, and then our justices, our court system, will act as if they are unimportant. So I think that is what has emboldened this government, emboldened this resident electoral commissioner in Edo, Professor Onora, whatever his name is, to make them so emboldened to be able to do things with impunity, brazenly, because they know the courts are not going to listen to what they're doing. In a sane society, when a management of an organization like INEC repeatedly, consistently sabotages election, creates what we would now call democracy darkness in Edo and in Nigeria as a whole, they should be prosecuted, or they will not be going through prosecution. You cannot consistently say there's a glitch in your most important tool to run an election. You did it in 2023, you did it in 2024, and you're doing it again in 2025. And there is no consequence for this laziness, no consequence for the incompetence, and there's no morality. So as a political party, we don't know what to do, but to keep encouraging Nigerians that the chickens will come home to roost at the appropriate time. And that is where we are. You know, that is where we are. And I will say, Nigeria is not designed like this. It's not. This is not what our forefathers planned. But then when you have buccaneers and have all the levers of power, they feel they can use it any which way they want. We were in government, PDP was in government, and we never had anything so brazen. And then people think they turn away and then they look at the other side and they, it's politicians. It's not. What is happening is that Nigeria is being cheated.
All right, Honourable, some have said that the PDP is scared because it's losing its stronghold in Edo State. And that's why the PDP...
We are not scared, I'll correct you, sir. We are not scared.
Okay.
There's nothing to be afraid of. What we have in by-elections, we know that it's a case of pirates and the buccaneers. What people call Alibaba and the 40 thieves. So we know that's what happens in the by-elections like this. You know, the government in power at the state level or the government in power at the federal level uses its might to bamboozle or bulldoze to get results to match its agenda. So that we are not scared. No, we're not.
You're not scared. Honorable, you're not scared. You're not scared, but do you admit that the PDP is losing its stronghold in Edo State?
You see, you're making a mistake. I'll tell you what we mean by stronghold. Before 2020, PDP was in opposition in Edo State from 2008 to 2020, 12 years. And when we won the election in 2020, we came into government and we spent 4 good years in government and we did marvelously well. There is no reasonable Edo person, no reasonable Nigerian that will go out to vote today and say they are voting for APC. You know that, I know that. So, but when the government or INEC has now turned to the military arm of the APC, Nigerians should be the ones that are really bothered, not say PDP. No, not PDP, it's Nigerians. We are the ones who should be bothered. When there's a free and fair election, it is better that the winner can go and smile that yes, I won because the people voted me. So as a political party, we are not scared. We weep for Nigeria right now. We weep for democracy. We are in democracy darkness, and the light must shine very soon.
All right, if you say you're not scared and therefore you are blaming the entirety and everything that happened over the weekend on the APC, do you also think that there's a state capture that is ongoing as we speak? Because if you say the PDP actually won, but unfortunately, what came out from INEC shows that the PDP was nowhere near the APC. What do you actually attribute that to, aside from blaming the APC for manipulating results?
Well, I think I thought you were listening to what I've been saying. I'm telling you, these results were manufactured. It's obvious it was manufactured. First of all, I told you about, first and foremost, INEC refusing to give our agent cards so they can also sit by while they monitor votes going on at the polling units. Strategically and systematically, this was denied PDP agents. So that gave APC and INEC the opportunity to write whatever result they felt like writing. Because then, if without an agent card, you are not allowed to approach where the INEC supervisors, which we also know, most of them were also card-carrying members of APC. It was all a strategic plan to deny those people their rightful voice. And you see why it makes us why it's comical is that we cannot even take this to court, because the courts now play like the three deaf and blind, deaf and dumb to APC shenanigans. So we're telling you what happened, what we saw. It's left for you. You look at the results. You look at the results. APC 100 and something thousand, PDP 15,000. Come on, look at it. In which by-election will you have this kind of figures? Impossible. Then for the other one, you have 17,000 and the PDP 3,000. It's impossible. We know this. In some of the unit results, look at them. APC is 600, PDP 0. A unit where not up to 300 people, not up to 400, not up to 150 people came out to vote. Those are the issues, not whether PDP is down or not. But then we look at it and laugh, because we know in 2027,
now,
they will not be able to send out all these thoughts, all these police across small, the same thing they did in the governorship election, which they didn't win. Compare the results we are getting today, especially in the senatorial district, to a general election that the turnout was higher. Compare the results in the Edo Central Senatorial District, where the governor is from Edo Central. In the last election, he had slightly above 300,000 votes in the whole state, and he lost his senatorial district. Today he's telling us he had 105,000 votes for one senatorial district. It's laughable. Laughable.
Now, Honourable, you've leveled allegations against the electoral umpire, INEC, saying that they are complicit in the illegalities, in your opinion, that took place during the by-elections. But INEC has insisted that the BVAS system was functional and secure. You've also said you're not so confident in the courts in seeking legal steps to address these challenges. So what's the next step for the People's Democratic Party in Edo State as we inch towards the 2027 elections? Because, I mean, you don't seem to have any faith in the system, in the courts, and also the electoral umpire.
Well, I believe you're a Nigerian, and I think all I will ask you, do you have faith in the system as it is today in Nigeria? Do you have faith in the INEC? Do you have faith in the courts? Do you have faith in the government? Those are the questions that you need to ask. As PDP, what we are doing is preparing ourselves for the 2027 elections. we believe that there's more chances for us to be able to have an election where soldiers is not militarized. What is happening now, you send soldiers to places like Edo to go and intimidate and harass people to vote because they are off-season elections. But when we have a general election where over 15 or 20, some 200,000 units are voted at the same time, we will not have that kind of, you won't have the kind of energy to do that kind of thing. So that's what we are saying. So we believe more in the general elections. We believe more that more people will come out and we'll be able to articulate our program between now and then to get more, because everybody's feeling the pinch. You know, what you're going to be voting against then is APC. Nobody's going to come out and pretend that they're having a wonderful time when that is coming.
All right.
So,
I mean, 2027 is around the corner. The next few weeks and months will unveil what the plans the PDP has, you know, to sort of challenge this. And we're going to keep following up with the story. Honorable Chris Nehikari, thank you for joining us this morning.
thank you very much for having me.
All right. Let's now bring you what's coming up next on Breakfast Central. Coming up next on Breakfast Central, we'll be analyzing Nigeria's aviation sector. We'll also be talking to you ahead of New Central's Town Hall series, letting you know what to expect and how to be a part of it. And the flood management crisis and response will also be a key conversation in the next hour.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. Now, from celebrity chaos on the tarmac to billion-naira infrastructure upgrades, the aviation sector has made the headlines recently for all the right and wrong reasons.
The recent incidents involving Fuji legend K1 The Ultimate at the Abuja airport and Comfort Emerson at the Lagos International Airport or Lagos Airport sparked lots of national debate on passenger conduct, aviation safety and enforcement.
Well, just about a week before, the federal government had announced a sweeping overhaul of Lagos Murtala Muhammad International Airport. A coincidence or just a wake-up call? Well, this morning on Breakfast Central, we are joined by publisher, CEO, Aviators Africa, Mr. Tony Ukachukwu, who joins us here. And not forgetting to also have aviation consultant who has worked with Bellevue as a crew instructor as well as a consultant for various aviation sector projects, Mr. Dennis Ejogu. They both are here with us live in the studio. Good morning, gentlemen. Welcome.
Good morning.
And
Good
thank you for being here with us.
Good morning.
I feel so bad that last week when we didn't have the both of you and we're discussing this, I came dressed as an air hostess. I should have done that today for extra touch to the conversation.
But this morning, you're no longer looking for any business within that line now.
No. And yeah, now that they are here, alternative sources of income.
Okay, I see what you're doing there.
Planning.
But welcome, gentlemen. I think the best place to start this conversation would be, I would have gone straight to the $1 million question everyone is asking, that why did they say turn off your phone? Why do they say that on airplanes and all that? So maybe we should start with that, Olive.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we should start with that. Let's talk about why it's such a big deal, because it has generated and sparked arguments. People would say that outside Nigeria, there's not a lot of pressure to turn off your mobile phone. And why do you have to turn it off when there's the airplane mode? What's the use of having the airplane mode if you can't use it?
Thank you very much. So basically, there's not much of a problem with using phones on board the aircraft, because some people have argued some international airlines were allowed to use Wi-Fi and all that. But basically, there are critical phases of flight, for those that don't know, which is takeoff and landing. That is the most critical phase of flight. And during that time, with something we call sterile flight deck, you don't communicate with the flight deck at all, whether you're crew for any whatsoever reason. So it's at this point that there can be transmission issues if you have a lot of mobile phones that are switched on. So basically, airlines tell passengers to switch off phones just to be on the side of caution. Not that 1, 2, 3, or 4 phones on at the same time will cause any problem, but when you have multiple phones, then they'll jam with the transmission issues. Then that's where we have a problem for takeoff and landing. But above 30,000 feet, you're okay to use your phone, because at that point, nothing interferes with transmission at all.
If I can actually add here, if you look at the passengers in Nigeria, a lot of them are not tech savvy. So ideally, they can go to their setting and then they'll put on the airplane mode. Now, if you look at what happened in terms of this Akwa Ibom lady, she couldn't sort out where the general and the menu on her phone was. So the best thing for most airline operators is switch off your phone. You understand? As against if you have 90 passengers and 3 cabin crew, and they're trying to help 20 passengers switch off their phone just before takeoff. That becomes a bit messy. So the best thing is switch off the phones. But mind you, when you look at the issue of the masts, most masts, they're effective, let's say, to 15, 20 meters. So within that period of takeoff, just like he was saying, takeoff and landing, the masts, you still have network going on, and that could affect the communication in the cockpit. Yeah. But beyond that point where you have the mast, 30,000 feet, thereabouts, is not as effective. So that's why a lot of airlines will now say, put on your phone. You understand, at 30,000 feet, so that's how it works.
Just follow up to, that what you have said. You talked about the cabin crew or the air hostesses not being able to attend to everybody in terms of helping them.
Cabin crew, not air hostesses.
Yeah, cabin crew, thank you for that.
Yeah.
You've also worked as a cabin crew official before now. Talk to us about what the proper protocol is when somebody hasn't turned off their phone, or we don't know. I mean, we've heard Comfort's side of the story, we haven't heard the lady's side of the story.
Yes.
But from the eyewitness report and from Comfort's story, there was an issue with not turning off phones.
Yeah.
How best should the member of the cabin crew handle this?
Okay, you can be professional and assertive in a very nice way, and you could be very courteous in doing your job. And funny enough, in my flying days, I never had that encounter where people were struggling. We never had a physical issue, just like what happened in this case here. So the first thing you do is make them realize there's a law, and be courteous. Don't go with that, that wrath in your eyes to threaten people. That's the last thing you do. They paid money for this thing. Tickets are not cheap. So when you have people revolting, they have a right to do so. And most importantly, you need to be courteous and respect them. In this scenario, there was no respect. From the cabin crew, I'm sorry, there was no respect. And then you have your job profile. You're not meant to harass people. You're not a security agent.
It's service industry.
It's a service industry, exactly. Yeah. So what we see here is, for the cabin crew, what you need to do is to be courteous, respect them, make them realize it's for their safety. Oftentimes, when you echo it, other passengers will take it up and say, safety. They won't play with safety. But if you make it a personal thing between you and the passenger, that becomes a problem.
You've done all that and the passenger still
children
refuses.
of nowadays.
You inform the cockpit. You now escalate the thing to the cockpit, to the captain, and say, sorry, there's somebody on board, blah, blah, blah. You have no right to start exchanging words with the person. Respect your uniform, which is very important. I mean, Mr. Tony,
so you're very correct. Just the question is, as there are standard operating procedures.
Exactly.
The aviation industry is highly regulated. Everything we do is by the books. There's nothing you want to do like, I think I should do. You don't think when it's aviation. Everything is, because safety is of no, you don't joke with zero consequence. I mean, you don't play with safety at all. Zero tolerance, I mean. So there are levels of disruptive passengers. So Emerson at that point in the cabin was at the level 1 disruption, which is verbal, because we heard from accounts that after the encounter with the cabin crew, she started cursing throughout the flight.
Yeah.
Now, cursing is verbal. It's something that the crew could have de-escalated.
Yeah.
Okay, but upon landing, it quickly escalated to level 2, which is physical disruption. Okay, we have other severe disruption, which is trying to get into the cockpit. That is like a hijack situation.
Yeah.
So, but level 1 disruption is something that any crew could handle. Just like Mr. Dennis has said, courtesy is is important on how you handle, the situation. And at the end of the day, it's a win-win for all. When we are talking about safety and security on board the aircraft, it's for the passengers, for the well-being of the passenger and the flight crew themselves. So we are all on the same side when it comes to safety. So someone telling you to switch off your phone is a no-brainer. You should just obey it. And let me add that passengers also don't know that once they purchase a ticket, you come into a contractual agreement with the airline. There's a policy. Back in the day where you used to have paper ticket, at the last page you see the terms and conditions. But now that everything has gone digital, when you're booking your flight, you see a place, you have to agree with the policy of the airline.
Nobody has time to read.
Tick it, nobody reads it. Okay, so you don't come into aircraft and start behaving anyhow. Okay, if they say switch off your phone, switch off your phone. It's as simple as that.
And to speak on behalf of the passengers, I realize that quite a number of times people don't know these things. The passengers, they're not aware of it because they have not, maybe it's their first time flying and second time and stuff like that. So I would advise the aviation industry, please, right from boarding, put these things there as signs. Tell people what are the things you need to do. Because if you don't do so, they might feel it's a personal thing between the cabin crew and themselves. Do you understand? So there has to be public enlightenment concerning this issue to make the work easier and to make your flights more enjoyable. So that should start from the ticketing point, like he mentioned. That could start. You have the signs everywhere at the airport say, please, when you board, switch off your phones. Do you understand? So just to
yeah, but let me also give them a benefit of doubt. Going to the Quam 1 case now. When you are boarding, during this at the screen point, there's usually a banner that shows dangerous goods, items that you cannot carry, your fire and flammable solids, liquid, and
battery.
All that. So they try to put this signpost. It's just that we don't take time to read. You should understand that there are conditions for carriage. If you understand the conditions for carriage, then you be mindful of how you behave and conduct yourself. It's just that we don't take time to look at these fine prints, these tiny prints.
Concerning the Kwamon issue, the question I ask myself is, how did he get to the tarmac? The tarmac is a sterile
that's what we're going to next. The processes and the layers of security.
That's where you have fueling, you have boarding, you have aircraft movements. If anyone goes there, any crazy person goes there, can set the aircraft on fire because they're boarding. So the huddles, the security people, the staff at these various huddles, the question is, did they do their job well?
They did their job, but personal influence and celebrity factor came.
That means they didn't do their job.
They shouldn't have. Yeah, they didn't do their job properly.
I think he said, correct me if I'm wrong,
that
he said something of
should not have gone past the...
Is it the flask? It was an empty flask.
I think we should ask the question. The flask, was it supposed to go past?
Empty flask can go past. Okay, because
liquid or any
empty
content
flask does not have any issue. Okay, it's not going to pose any harm. It's not inflammable. It's not all that. It's the content of the flask that we're worried about. And if you are carrying a liquid content above 50 ml, you're not allowed for passage through the screening point. That's why some of us, or some passengers, when they carry perfumes and above 50 ml, they say you have to drop. You keep wondering, it's just perfume now. Above 50 ml, and these things are on the dangerous
But
item.
if he bought the water, that waiting area just before you board,
So it was in the
aircraft,
lounge
being
or
cleared.
something.
In the lounge, he buys a bottle of water, he can't finish it, pours it into his flask, and takes it into the plane. That's a possibility.
So yes, that's a possibility. Now, I need to make it clear. So when you, as he claimed that he bought water at the lounge, in the cabin, you are not allowed to bring any consumable on your personal self. If you want to eat or drink at the lounge or buy duty free, you are free. But that's why the airline provides refreshment for you. The point is, the airline wants to be sure of what you consume on board the aircraft. It's their responsibility, because a passenger can claim that I have consumed X and X on board the aircraft, now I'm sick and I'm suing for this. So to be on the side of caution, no passenger is... All he will have done is carry the empty flask, get on board the aircraft, and ask the crew, please, can you give me water? The crew will gladly give him water, and he pours it into his flask, and he drinks on board because the crew is sure that it's our water that we gave to you. So now pouring the content on the crew on board the aircraft shows that, you're carrying a suspicious item.
And then when he poured it, it didn't smell like water.
We don't have the facts on that.
I don't think we have the facts.
But layers of security.
Yes.
How was he able to get there?
That's the question.
How many security points are in an airport? I mean, can you break it down for us? What makes it so hard for someone to get on the tarmac?
What makes it so hard? You have the first ticket in. You buy your ticket at the point, and then you check in your luggage. So you have the security personnel making sure that you have the right luggage being checked and whatever is inside there. And then you have the gates, but we don't have gates in a lot of airports. You have to now go, well, you go country. When you say gates, you have like, yeah, we don't have gates. But when you have the issue of transiting from the tarmac into the aircraft, right? Now, before you get to that point, I think there's an issue we have to mention here. That is the issue of profiling. For you to be a good cabin crew, for you to be a good airport personnel, you need to learn how to profile people. If you notice someone is staggering, someone's speech is not okay, it's not coherent, you have a right to call the person out and say, sir, can I see you for a minute? As a cabin crew, I've had to deboard some people at times. I've had cases where people were lined up to get into the aircraft, and I said, no, that guy can't come on board. I said, why? Because he's drunk. Oh, he lost his mother and his, I said, no, he can't come on board. Because at 30,000 feet, I don't know what your mind will be, how it's going to play out. So the job, you need to learn how to profile. You need to learn how to use what the law says to convince people. But you don't get intimidated, like he said, celebrities. The celebrity thing, come on. If anything happens at 30,000 feet, your job is at stake. People will die,
All right. We'll come back to the de-escalation process, but I want to talk about what happened on the tarmac in the Kwamon situation, where after a while we saw the plane moving. Now this then led to Captain Ronti and First Officer Idoba being suspended, even though the suspension has, I think, it's been reduced.
After a month, they said just a month.
Just a month, and then it's been lifted.
Okay.
At what point, was it okay for them to move? Do we believe that they had gotten
the aircraft
clearance? Yes, the aircraft. Because I want to believe that they don't move without getting a clearance from the control tower.
Now, I think when I look at that Kwamon issue, it's very, it's not complex, it's straightforward. What happened that day, Kwamon would have sued the airline. Yes, because if anything had happened to him, if that aircraft had hit him and he fell headlong on the tarmac, probably would have died. And you're looking at a big case there. You have no right. The tarmac is a point where movement should be cautious. What we saw there was simply a reaction, not based on calculations and what is expected of you to do. If you have someone who is standing in front of the aircraft, you are not to move the aircraft. The first thing you should do, like back to what we're talking about, the job profile, is to call the security personnel and say, somebody is standing here, not you firing that aircraft.
Do you think that she could, because part of the argument, those who are in support of her, and I don't know if you share the same sentiment.
So at this point, I think we need to get a little bit technical in trying to look at the issue. But I will also state that cabin crew and pilots are well trained. They go through rigorous training. And I'm also emphasize that they work in a very harsh environment.
Yes.
It's very difficult to work in our environment.
Yeah.
So must give them that benefit of that. They are well trained. They are not people you just got from the street and just wear uniform to be cabin crew or pilots. Okay. So in Captain Ronti's case, she is somebody I know professionally. I worked with her. She conducts herself in a very good manner. And looking at what happened, if you are a pilot, the procedure is really that there's a guy called the marshaller that walks just further where the pilot could visually see him and they could say move or park and the aircraft. So basically the pilots work with instructions. They don't just do things by themselves. Even before the doors get shut, the cabin crew have to let the pilot know we are secured, the doors are secured, and we are good in the cabin.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's cabin check. Before the pilot can even begin to now say, okay, do their checks in the cockpit, and then communicate with the air traffic controller to say, okay, we are good, and are we good to go? So I don't think a pilot, a commander, will just move the aircraft as if it's moving a bus.
But can she visually
yes,
see?
so that's where I'm going to. So if you're in the cockpit, depending on the aircraft you're flying, but most aircraft, you can't visually see somebody at the nose of the aircraft. Usually it's either you communicate with the marshaller that walks farther down, or most ground staff will come to the side of the aircraft and hit on the fuselage to give you a thumbs up or to communicate with you. So you can only see farther down or by the side. But somebody under the nose of the aircraft, the captain will not see, the flight deck would not see.
But will the marshaller see the person at the nose of the
Yes,
aircraft?
so that's the missing point. Where was the marshaller? Who told Captain Ronte that it's okay for you to move the aircraft? Somebody must. So balls were dropped here and there, but we are yet to get there.
And should someone have been physically extracted from that location?
So
he didn't listen to verbal.
These questions are
verbal instructions.
So when the doors are shut, that means all procedures, all takeoff procedures are completed for the aircraft to move. Now, immediately the doors are shut, the aviation security personnel are supposed to whisk Kwam-1 immediately from that aircraft, because that is a secure, the tarmac is a secured parameter. Right. It's either you're in the aircraft or you're at the terminal building. Yeah. You have no business hanging around the tarmac. So once Kwam-1 couldn't make the flight, he should have been escorted back to the terminal building. If he tries to resist, he should be handcuffed or restrained, rather. Not handcuffed, so it's like restrained and taken to the terminal. So the aviation security personnel that we saw
were begging. I saw them begging,
begging Kwam-1 to leave. So it was a hijack situation, it was a terrorist attack situation, and it was a suicide attempt situation.
And do you agree that it was a hijack situation?
Okay, so we have cases where passengers coming with a lot of different, what do you call it now?
There's a lot of emotional baggage.
Emotional, baggage. And as a crew and an airport worker, what you need to do is to have diplomacy. Very important. Now for Nigeria, we notice that people are a bit brash in how they do things. The airline I used to work for, it was a thing of pride to wear that uniform. And you're being able to achieve something without being excessive. That is the skill you need to acquire. Now, I'm not in support of whisking people and the rest. I never had that experience in how many years of flying as an instructor, because I...
At the airport.
There's a time I learned in Nigeria, sometimes when we have issues with people, they say it has to have a political solution. So I think in this case, it was politically resolved so that all parties, their nerves will be frayed. But if aviation is technical, we don't just do things. There are procedures to everything. So my own personal opinion was immediately the Kwam-1 issue happened, I think because as crew, we are rostered. I mean, I used to also be a cabin crew. Captain Ronte should have been de-rostered. First of all, remove her from active flying, because we need to ascertain her mental state and all that. Not suspending her license immediately, because remember, investigation, it was a developing story, so videos were still coming until the minister came with another portion of the video that would start to understand that it's not just him being by the wing. Okay, it was also by the nose of. So things were developing. I think we should have waited to continue the investigation. On the Kwam-1 case, the aviation security dropped the ball. What was the procedure? From the screening points to open the aircraft, it was supposed to be taken away to wake somewhere called Tango City for questioning, and from there take his case, because everything is guided by, we are under the International Civil Aviation Organization laws, and Nigerian Civil Aviation is, upholding it here in our own region. So everything has procedure. Okay, so the minister petitioned IG, Inspector General of Police, and the Attorney General of the Federation, for Kwam-1 case. That he did his job to that point. Yeah. So if the government now decide, we should just, release Emerson and let Kwam-1 go, reduce it to 1 month, that was their own result to think, having looked at, from their own point of view, all the issues, and decide, let's move forward from this and make prisoners. But it could have taken another turn. In other crimes, Kwam-1 would be sitting cool in the prison for close between 1 to 2 years for that act of attempted hijack and terrorist attempt. For that case.
And for Comfort Emerson?
And for Comfort Emerson, so her case was assault. So just like we said, balls were dropped here and there. I question why the cabin crew should have held the door and stopping Emerson from disembarking.
Yeah,
there are ways to do it. Again, if you're going through the standard operating procedures, if you see a troublesome passenger, the first thing you do as a cabin crew is notify the flight deck.
Yeah,
I have so passenger on seat, this. So the flight deck will make an informed decision, either to turn back, disembark the passenger, or in flight, call aviation security with the destination they are going ahead, so that when the aircraft touches ground, even before the doors are open, aviation security is already waiting for Emerson. Yeah. So all that drama will not have played out.
Very true.
Okay, so imagine that cabin crew blocking, now doing a Emerson could have used an oxygen bottle to hit her or push her down the stairs, and then we'll start talking about something else. You should have just allowed Emerson to get down, and still, before Emerson could get the tarmac, she could still be picked up. So I think she took matters in her, trying to, and I also think maybe perhaps the captain said, hold on, I'm pending when aviation security comes.
I doubt that. I want to hope that the captain would know better.
Yeah, but something has to make her want to stop her from disembarking.
She used that initiative.
Okay. And then filming her, making, like, stripping her naked, filming her, and ensuring that
dragging her down the stairs.
It's horrible. It's just disgraceful.
I think it was now personal, and it be like a woman matter.
Man, no people mountains.
No, that one. What do you think? Because from what I see, the solution, like you said, the political solution, even by the Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, addresses some of the issues, but doesn't address majority of the issues. In
and
this
it
case,
doesn't
for
even
example,
serve as a deterrent.
Exactly.
Somebody else could go and do it, and you expect me to be forgiven too. What lessons have we learned?
We already had that incident. It was on another flight, and the passenger said, "What happened in the bomb air will happen in this air."
I think I heard about
so
that.
when there are no consequences for action, things get out of hand.
True.
There must be consequences for action, and the due penalties meted out to the individuals involved. Simple. So if you let Joe get off the hooks, why won't they allow me get off the hooks?
Exactly.
Yes, I think we need to ask ourselves, what are they teaching them in their training, the cabin crew, the cockpit crew? What content are they assimilating? Are they told to be hostile? Are they told to be insecure? Do you understand?
I don't think anybody teaches anybody to be hostile and insecure.
To be personal. Let me use the word personal. So as a crew, the first thing you need to realize is that you should have a good self-esteem, whoever you approach. When you look at this comfort case, obviously, like you said, there was a bit of issue between the two ladies. And the other video, she explained everything, that probably she was wondering why she was so hostile to her. You understand? She's a customer. She bought the ticket. You need to be courteous to me. So the training point, which is very important, a lot of operators, what are they teaching their crew? And then when we talk about the issue of the mental state of crew, both cockpit crew, cabin crew, and even the ground staff, what is the mental state? Because we don't want a case where someone on the line, somebody at 30,000 feet is thinking of how to pay their school fees and might make a horrible mistake. Or intentional mistake.
That's why in aviation, you don't have anybody taking a unilateral decision, okay? In the cockpit, you have the pilot and the co-pilot.
Yeah.
In the cabin, you have like two or three cabin, depending on the aircraft you're flying. What I would have taught in this particular case, so for training, they are well trained, but I will emphasize on training and retraining.
Yes.
Very important. So in the case of the purser, the head crew that was dealing with Emerson on the aircraft, what I would have, because again, the job, we see all people from different walks of life, mannerism. You talked about profiling. A cabin crew is trained to, once you board the aircraft, you're boarding and you show your ticket, we have already profiled your personality, and if you see anything, which is what they noticed with Kwamon's flights. I said, you'd be like, something they this, you know? So they were doing their job, they were visible, the situational awareness was there. What I would have expected from her was, as the exchange of word was happening with Emerson, she should have stepped back and let another crew engage.
That's the right thing to do.
That will help you cool down and cool off. But she went on and she was going and then took that on board until they landed. So I think crew resource management, like I mentioned earlier, is something that should have played that. How you manage situations is very key, because we all have different personality traits, but the training must come forward beyond your personality.
Maybe in response to that, one of the eyewitnesses had said that when it got heated, that she retreated to the cockpit and didn't return, or till the end of the flight.
No, she went to our station because remember they were trying to take off. So once the security and safety checks have been done, she has to return to the forward of the aircraft, and the other crew returned to the back for prepare for takeoff. So she would have stayed there if they were not going to take off, but she left because, of course, she has duties to attend to.
This conversation, unfortunately, will have to come to an end. I mean, time is fast.
We need a part two away from the drama.
Yeah,
and looking at the industry proper.
Yeah, and then we can now, for maybe the part two, we'll have to focus on the aviation sector, like you've rightly said.
And to everyone who's a part of the aviation industry, this is not a way to paint the aviation sector bad. We appreciate the work that our cabin crew, the work they do to keep us safe in the air. It's just to highlight the flaws, the inadequacies, and the gaps that have been missing to ensure that we don't see a repeat incident in the nearest future. We don't want a Quam 3 or Quam 4 like they say here. But thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us.
Thank you for inviting. Thank you, Tony. Thank you.
All right, there's much to come. We're going to a very quick break, and when we come back, Breakfast Central continues. Stay with us.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. Now, on Thursday, 21st of August, News Central will be hosting the One Middle Belt, One Voice Town Hall meeting, convening stakeholders across political, ethnic, religious, and gender lines to deliberate on challenges and chart common ground on the insecurity crisis in the region.
Nigeria's Middle Belt is trapped in a cycle of insecurity, from violent clashes to mass displacement. And News Central will now be leading the conversation by pushing for change, by amplifying the voices of survivors and generating practical recommendations for government and security agencies, as well as establishing the foundation for a long-term regional agenda anchored on peace, justice, and socioeconomic stability. But first, to join us in highlighting some of the issues to be addressed at the One Middle Belt, One Voice Town Hall is the founder of the Cecil Empowerment Foundation, A. Jonathan. Good morning. Thank you for joining
Good morning. Thank you. And thank you for having me.
It's great to have you.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're not having you for the most pleasant, conversations.
I know.
Would you say that, that we have as a nation understood, represented, and spoken up for the Middle Belt as much as we should have?
No, I would not say that. Now, the Middle Belt, interestingly, consists, yes, there's Benue, Kogi, and a number of states, but also there are parts of, say, for example, southern Kaduna, parts of Gombe, parts of even Niger State, of course, Niger is there, that also see themselves as Middle Belt. In the last few years, there has been this whole movement about Middle Belt, not North. Because one of the things that has happened, politically speaking, for years, even though it was not in our constitution, and they're trying to put it in the constitution now, is we have these 6 political zones. And the Middle Belt has been subsumed under this so-called North Central, which for many of us, I'm one of those people who's of the view, I am not a Northerner. And many Nigerians keep thinking we are Northerners. And they'll say, oh, you're from Benue, Yativ, you're Northern. And it's that same funny aberration around this so-called Hausa Fulani, which is a false creation, created by the colonialists to actually subsume the Middle Belt under indirect rule and actually put us under subjugation. And it continued in our political dispensation. So first and foremost, we even misidentify the Middle Belt. Now, when it comes to the issues of the Middle Belt, first, Middle Belters generally feel that they were used by the Nigerian state during the Civil War to basically keep the nation one, which is good. We want to be part of this beautiful, lovely, diverse nation called Nigeria. But also, when that ended, we now became a tool in the hands of Northern, this whole idea around what is so-called North. And you will hear a lot of people will say they use us during elections to show up numbers so that, quote unquote, the Northern oligarchy can win. Some of our politicians are in bed with this thing, but the Middle Belt is one of the most neglected parts of the nation. And when I talk about the Middle Belt being the most neglected part of the nation, even just simple things like getting from Lagos, for example, to the Middle Belt, parts of the Middle Belt, from our economic capitals, our economic centers, which is a nightmare. The roads are terrible. If you're trying to go from Lagos, before it used to be 8 hours or 10 hours. Now you're talking about 20 hours. So even economically speaking, in the way we connect, we're trying to get some people from Kwara to Jos for the Middle Belt Town Hall tomorrow. It's a nightmare, 20 hours by road. Roads are not good.
My goodness.
The best they can do is go from Ilorin to Abuja. Then from Abuja is a 5-hour drive to Jos, right? Now, that flight from Ilorin to Abuja is one way, 260,000 naira. Lagos to Abuja is how much? 180. If you're lucky, you see 150K. So there are those challenges. Then forget Benue, there are no airports. Or rather, there are no flights. They'll tell you that the economic situation is whatever, whatever. But I'm saying all of that to say that the Middle Belt feels very hard done by in that regard. Security-wise, we have a population of over 40 million people. That's a huge chunk of this country. And right now, almost 10%, I dare say, and we need to confirm those figures, are displaced of that population. And the Nigerian government has not taken it upon themselves to even say, let us do the figures. So when you look at figures for Nigeria, again, this thing, when you see displacement figures for Nigeria, it is the Northeast figures you tend to see. And for years we've had that. It's only recently UNHCR actually now added some of these figures. So in terms of the responses on the mass displacement concerns, the security concerns, the Middle Belt, a lot of what we now call the North Central they've not done very well as far as we're concerned as a people and what we're seeing on ground.
Now, News Central is hosting a town hall tomorrow. Yes. What would be the highlights for you, and what message would you want to put out there?
In 2 days, actually.
In 2 days. It's on Thursday.
Yeah, in 2 days.
So I'm going to be there tomorrow, so I'm very excited. I've managed to secure a seat on the very scarce seats that you get on the flights to Jos from Lagos. So we hope that we'll have more flights going to that part of the country. But first and foremost, I really must, and please, I'm not trying to flatter you, I must really thank News Central for being a voice for the Middle Belt and for communities like Benue and other communities around Nigeria, where we normally don't hear these things. I can tell you until the News Central series, Middle Belt series started, you had one in Benue a few weeks ago.
Yes.
A lot of people didn't realize how bad the situation is. And again, whether it is deliberate, whether it is an oversight, a lot of the displacement issues, the attacks, the killings, the ongoing, quote unquote, I call it a genocide, has been downplayed severely by mainstream media in Nigeria. Now, Plateau we hear more of, and you see a lot of the attacks that are going on. Kwara, sometimes you hear, sometimes you don't. Kogi, silent, but there's a lot. Taraba is another one. So we're having some people coming in from Jalingo as well. So we're very, very excited that this is an opportunity. And I think the theme is one voice, right?
Yes.
For the Middle Belt to come together.
One Middle Belt, one voice.
One Middle Belt, one voice. To come and speak, because it's one of the most diverse regions in Africa, I will say.
I mean, even Benue itself is
is diverse. We have about four groups there. In Plateau or whether in Taraba, they have all sorts of tribes. Some of them I've never even heard of them. But we are expecting that we will come together and talk about our issues. The common issue for us is insecurity, displacement, massive poverty, which also feeds further into the insecurity issue, and to begin to really profess solutions and strengthen the advocacy for the region in this regard. So we're extremely excited. I'm also the convener of the Middle Belt Concern. I've been here to speak sometimes about the Middle Belt Concern, and this is what we're looking for, is security for all. So Middle Belt is home to so many people, and we speak for all. For the Hausas who are in that region, and for so many others. So far you're there ready to live at peace with everybody, you're not ready to attack and kill people, we speak for you.
Okay, you had said something about what you think the cause of insecurity is. Many analysts have argued that it's beyond just insecurity, that it has to do with land, ethnicity, religion. You've called it a genocide, and you won't be the first. But from the work you've done so far on the ground, what would you say are some of the core drivers of insecurity in the Middle Belt?
So One is the absolute absence of rule of law and the government being determined to do its work. The other thing, I mentioned poverty. Over the years, our regions have gotten poorer and poorer due to just poor governance, poor management of resources. I mean, we get so many allocations, but you don't see much on the ground. I mean, Middle Belt is the food producing area. The Benue is the food basket. Plateau produces a lot. Niger, Taraba, and so on and so forth. But somehow, our governments, much like in the north, and many parts of Nigeria actually, have failed, despite trillions spent, to actually take that gift we have. The land in the Middle Belt is so fertile. If you go to Benue, you throw seeds anywhere, they grow. Right? But we've not been able to harness that natural gift and really mechanize and industrialize the Middle Belt. Instead, our governors and whatever, administration after administration, have continued to enrich themselves, take these resources and use them for goodness knows what, and leave the people, with every administration, the people are left poorer. That now leaves them susceptible to all kinds of crime, terrorism, attacks that they can't even defend themselves. And so, for example, I'll just give an example. In Benue, when there are attacks in some of these communities, the communities, a lot of them are cut off, the roads are bad, so the infrastructure is also extremely poor. I'm from a community, local government called Kwande. To get to Kwande from Makudi, a journey that used to take 90 minutes will probably take you almost 3 hours because the roads are horrendous. And when you get there, they keep allocating money for the roads, but we don't know what happens to that money. They will come and bring some tractors and then go away. But this is the story across a lot of the Middle Belt. Even getting from the capital. Now, the Middle Belt houses the Federal Capital Territory of Nigeria. It's amazing to me. But to get from FCT to Makudi, that is a 4-hour drive. Between FCT and Makudi, I've forgotten how many kilometers it is. You pass 4 toll gates and you pay. How does that work? So how are you going to encourage trade?
I was on that trip.
You were on that trip. You saw those toll gates, right?
Yes.
It's crazy. And it just came in, especially with this administration. And you're taxing these people. They're poor. You're not mechanizing. Yes, they're giving allocations. How is the government using those things? So there are all those questions.
I mean, sorry to cut it.
It's okay.
Yeah,
please.
But that kind of like reflects on what we said earlier this morning, that suggestions are made or the government takes a very strong decision, but then again, it doesn't follow through. Because you say allocations are being made. They give allocations, but
Absolutely.
yet nothing is, nobody sees anything. Let me just ask quickly, since the News Central will be having this town hall with persons coming from different areas within the Middle Belt, in your heart of hearts, what do you think this would be able to achieve?
I think first, this is actually going to be one of the very first gatherings of the people of the Middle Belt on this kind of scale, which is why, again, I think it's such an amazing opportunity. Of course, we're planning to have many side meetings because we're all going to be in Jos. We don't always get the opportunity to meet like this and begin to really talk about strengthening our collaborations and our voice, and just really begin to think about how we can really push through solutions for the various issues that we have. I think it will also help us really understand and talk to each other and dissect. It's not that we don't talk to each other behind the scenes, but when with the town hall, you get so many different perspectives. We're talking about insecurity. Our insecurity in the Middle Belt is a multifaceted demon. The biggest cause of displacement are these terrorist headsmen who come in and attack the communities, right? That's one of the biggest causes. But there's a secondary cause. There are also, I saw in, I think in the opening or introduction, there are also some of these clashes, quote unquote, between communities who are fighting over goodness knows what, whether it's a boundary dispute and all that. Now, those are a bit minor, but sometimes when those attacks do happen, there is also a little bit, some displacement. But the biggest cause is this one. And it's important for us to understand this is the multifaceted dimension of this insecurity. But bottom line, the other thing is the absolute failure of the state at local, state, and federal levels to secure the people, to do their number one job as based on our constitution, which is that you should secure the people and their properties. And we want to also discuss that and see how can we continue to bring pressure to bear on them. One thing I'll say, you mentioned allocations. And a few weeks ago, our president came out and said, oh, we should hold our governors accountable, right? And I'm looking like, are you kidding me? Are you serious? Right? With all due respect to our federal government and our leaders. But let's take the case of, say, for example, a journalist like Agbajalingo in Cross River, who was trying to hold his governor accountable. What happened? Did the government come to his rescue? The federal? No. So how are you going to, you know, we say these things, and I'm saying, I'm sorry, I'll say this on TV, you know, it's me, so they should sanction me. No wonder one foreign government is calling your parties terrorist organizations, because you're busy terrorizing your citizens for simply trying to hold you accountable in what you call a democracy. So that discourages, and in the Middle Belt, all sorts of crazy things happen. In Kogi State, a few years ago, we had an election. A governor emerged off the back of one of the most violent elections, where they actually burnt the leader of the opposition party in her house. They arrested maybe 2, whatever. This guy had benefited of, the governor benefited of this extremely violent election. Nothing was done. Apart from maybe they said they arrested 1 or 2 people, there was no consequences for the people that gave rise, or for the people that funded that group to actually go and foment this kind of violence. So these are some of the things we see. So when we say hold your governors accountable, we want to, but there's a cost that comes with that. Even for people who are in the media, even for journalists, we see this all the time. You know, Southern Kaduna, I'm so happy, Southern Kaduna, we're also going to have some people from there because they consider themselves more Middle Belt than Northern. And even on the geographical scale, the old Middle Belt region, those were the places until the military governments came in and successively balkanized our communities even further. But what you see is that even in Southern Kaduna, there's a publisher of a newspaper called Middle Belt Times, Stephen Keferson, again, holding his government accountable, and he was detained unlawfully. The rule of law is not upheld. So my own appeal, and one of the things we want to begin to push for at the Middle Belt, is that, yes, we will hold our governments accountable even more, but we expect certain protections from the state, 1. And 2, also we want the state, federal government. I don't see what stops them. If you're doing federal allocations, your allocation every month is 3 billion or whatever it is that you say you're giving the state. What stops you from looking at the human development index of that particular state and saying, if your education is not at this level, your federal allocation gets cut off by a certain percentage until you get it right? Because what are you doing with all this money? How come it is that we're putting all this money, even the security votes, we're talking in security now, security votes in Benue, for example, they've received billions, yet the insecurity continues to rise.
We don't see results.
We're not seeing the results. So we need results-driven leadership. We need accountability. The president himself, with all due respect, and his team, they need to get more serious about how they hold even the people, how they hold the governors and their teams responsible for performance. Don't come and put on the citizens what your job is and what you're paid to do by the citizens. That's why you're taxing us.
But do you feel like your governors, like the governors in the Middle Belt, do you feel like they are showing up in some capacity, or do you feel that they've become overwhelmed and it's the insecurity challenges have become out of their control? Or do we just see it as a case of, you know, they're probably clueless as to what the next steps are?
Well, I'm not in their hearts and I'm not in their team, so I cannot say. What I can just say is that the results speak for themselves. Whatever it is that they're doing or not doing, it's showing in the results, and it's not working, and they're failing at that. Some of them try, they do 1 or 2 things, but they're not going far enough. The lives we're losing are too many. The kidnappings are too many. There's no consequence for these kidnappers. They are roaming our forest freely, roaming our farmlands freely, and nothing is happening. And they have commissioners of police who are not accountable. We'll go back to Yelwata, the 14th of June attack that was such a watershed moment all of us. Yelwata happened. Our governor did not show up there in Benue for a couple of days until the federal government people showed up. So first and foremost, it raises questions. Do you really even care about the people that elected you? Because I can tell you, Governor Alia was elected fair and square. They voted him. They were very happy with him initially. But this thing happened. Did you even go there on time? We're not sure. You didn't show up for 2 days. Then, when the president, after much pressure again, president now shows up a few days later. And you now turn it.
Water.
I mean, but when it's time for election, he will get to Yelwata and campaigning.
Well,
so,
unfortunately, Yelwata again has been in the news in the recent times.
Absolutely, because even last week, Udie, another small community, that should tell you there's a failure.
Okay.
So you see those things. Let me just land on that point in terms of, because we're not feeling like they're serious enough. The Commissioner of Police of Benue State, do you know his name? Thank you. Have you ever seen him come out on TV? Well, maybe once or twice. Have you seen him come out and tell us what investigations they're doing to track down those killers? Have you seen them say they have forensic anything going on? Meanwhile, they're receiving billions in the security vote. That should tell us something.
Okay. I mean, it's really a heavy conversation to have this morning. But let's talk about the psychological impact of all this, right? What is the state of the average citizen in the Middle Belt? We're seeing the displacements increasing, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're having another talk, a town hall meeting. How are we sure that people will come out and talk? How important is it for people to come out and talk? Because I want to assume that there's a certain discouragement that creeps in, that sense of, defeat that creeps in. Has it crept in yet in the minds of the citizens?
For some, absolutely. I mean, there are some who have been severely displaced for years. We have a community in my local government called Mon. They've been displaced. They've even taken over. The terrorists that are just roaming around with their head, cattle, or whatever they say they are doing there. And the government is not doing anything. This has been going on for 10 years. So the people, on one level, they are displaced, extremely traumatized. There's a woman in the IDP Makudi camp called Jerry Ayem. She spoke at your town hall, the town hall in Makudi, where they came in and macheted her 4 children and her mother and burnt them. She couldn't even continue talking. I don't know if you watched that clip. She said her heart is broken. But she had to say something. God bless her fighting spirit, but she's extremely traumatized. So last time I spoke with her, which was last week, she's still living in the camp. We've been trying to find housing for her. Thank God her church has stepped in, and they're finding housing and trying to get her with the community so she's not alone, and so on and so forth. But that is the story of many. The men, severely displaced. Women go to the farms to get food, they are raped and sometimes killed. These stories are downplayed. Do you hear our government talking about it? There's no compensation, there's no resettlement of the IDPs because their places have been taken over. Even when they say they've resettled and they go back, they get attacked. So we're not seeing an end in sight. So the people are extremely traumatized, extremely. You go to several of the camps, some of them are just going around blank state, some have lost their minds. Having said that, there's also a certain level of hope and faith and resilience that many of them display. One of the things that breaks my heart is you go there, they're so grateful for every little thing you give them. Some of those communities, when you go there, you will go, they don't have food. You take relief materials to them, they want to give you a gift. You're begging them, please don't give us anything. Some of them will tell you, you've remembered us. God will bless you. Please take this little thing. This is what we have. Some of them will even, the little yam they even have, they'll start trying to cook for you. So in the midst of all of that, it's very painful, moves us all to tears. But at the same time, you can see that their humanity has not been taken away from them, despite what they've suffered. So there's that fighting spirit. I wish our government would back them up so that they can really stand. So in terms of speaking, they will speak. I mean, we saw at the town hall, the last one, I think it was meant to run for 2 hours or 2.5, it stretched to 4 because the people couldn't get enough. And that's where, again, these town halls are so critical because they give people a voice and a platform because they don't get heard. In many of our states, they're shutting us down. In Benue, I can tell you, before Yelwata, sometimes when you even talk about killings happening, they'll come and label you anti-government. And we've been seeing that happen since, let me say, 2014, when I started doing this work. So this has been successive administrations from under Governor Suswam, under Governor Otom, and under Governor Alia, until, I'm talking for Benue now, until they get attacked or get personally touched. A lot of them, they try and pretend and play the ostrich when these killings are happening at the beginnings of their whatever. For Governor Suswam, it took him being attacked personally. They attacked his convoy, you know. Same thing with Otom, they attacked his family. Before then, when they are shouting attacks, they will sometimes say that the people who are shouting are being sponsored by their political opponents.
Well, the one thing we will not do here at New Central is to bury our heads under the sand and act like it's not happening, which is why we want you to join us tomorrow as we delve deeper into these issues. We're delving deeper at 9 a.m. here on Breakfast Central. And do join us on Spaces on X at 8 p.m. tomorrow for an in-depth conversation with Middle Belt stakeholders. Here, Jonathan, thank you so much for joining us this morning, as well as for the work that you do to amplify the voices of the people in the Middle Belt. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Safe travels. Yeah.
Safe travels, yes. All right, we're going to break now. There's more to come this morning on Breakfast Central. We, of course, do have our papers to be reviewed, so join us.
It's a final lap here on Breakfast Central, and we do have the front pages of the newspapers to look into. Of course, we do have the publisher, the niche newspaper, drum rolls, Mr. Ikechukwu Amici is here with us live.
Fantastic analysis. I always look forward to this segment, especially when it's on. Happy to have you join us.
And someone sent me a message, was it last week, and said, this your paper analysis, this your paper analyst. He looks calm, but when he starts talking, he spits fire.
Everywhere vibrates.
Everybody gonna collect.
Everywhere begins to move.
And I said, that's what it is.
So
it is what it is.
Let's start.
But welcome.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks for joining us. Let's start with the Punch newspaper. There's so much news on the front page of the Punch. And this is one that will definitely draw a lot of reactions. FG Mo's pay raise for political office holders. In other words, the federal government is thinking of increasing their salaries. The Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Commission, RMAFC, says President Tinubu's 1.5 million naira salary. Ministers' salaries are under 1 million naira, low, and launches revenue sharing review.
Let me read.
That's
let
the
me quote
body
it.
in charge of allocation.
Let me go, because I went to the article.
The president of Nigeria,
I went to the
all
article.
the problems of the country, earning 1.5 million naira.
The RMAFC chairman, Mohammed Shehu, says, and I quote, in an article in The Punch, he says, "You are paying the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1.5 million naira a month with a population of over 200 million people. Everybody believes that it is a joke." Mr. Ikechukwu Amici, your thoughts?
Well, if the president earns 1.5 million naira, you will say it's a joke, but the truth of the matter is that the Nigerian president does not earn 1.5 million naira. It's as simple as that. And again, the bigger truth is that there's no difference, and that's particularly important. We need to get this right. Nigeria is about the only country, about the only democracy where there's no difference between the public and the private purse. And what do I mean by that? On paper, the president earns 1.5 million naira, but the president has all the powers on earth to spend Nigeria's money, even without appropriation by the National Assembly. And look, I think we get our priorities wrong in this country. The National Assembly, our federal legislators, are perhaps the highest earning lawmakers anywhere in the world. Our political office holders earn more than most political office holders anywhere in the world. In other countries, lecturers, doctors are paid more. But here, how much does an average professor who has spent perhaps 30, 35 years teaching in the university, how much does he earn? And look, the more we continue making our political offices very lucrative, the more we incentivize people to go into public office. And we are talking about...
For the wrong reasons.
For the wrong reason. And we're talking about people. Look, public office ought to be for service. I'm not saying that you get out of office pauperized, but you must have something that is the motivating factor that takes you to office, not necessarily to acquire wealth. Here, public office is the direct route to affluence. You see somebody who was traveling on 9th bus just yesterday, he gets elected into the parliament as a member of the executive arm of government or even appointed, and he's acquiring a private jet. Even if he's not acquiring a private jet, he no longer flies commercial airlines. He must travel on chartered flight. People live life of luxury in a country where millions of Nigerians are in the poverty loop. Well, the Ramfak chairman may continue to say it is a joke that the president earns 1.5 million. The president does not earn 1.5 million. And let him show me that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu earns 1.5 million.
And then our ministers earn under 1 million.
And what's it with the public servants? Let's use the word servants in this case so that it clarifies why and what they ought to be known for and what they ought to do. Why is it that the salaries they earn is shrouded in secrecy? It's hidden. Barely can you ask one of them to say, okay, how much is your salary? Like Anne Olive had spoken to a member of the assembly, and Senator Nwaboye, we asked him how much. Said if we see his salary, we're going to whip for him. And if we see his salary, it's not even enough. He's sure that when we see his salary, we would want to contribute to him. And we're wondering, but 160 million naira was given to you for cars, just only. What about the other monies that are being given? And so on and so forth. So is it that it's a deliberate process to just keep Nigerians blinded and shrouded in this? What's it?
It is. They can't tell you because they know that if they tell you, you'll be outraged. They can't tell you. These guys are simply bleeding the country. They're simply bleeding the country. And the sad thing is that we borrow this money and spend it on consumption and spend it on servicing bloated bureaucracy and spend it on convoys. A president traveling with a 50-car convoy. What for? What are the ministers don't fly commercial distance again. They go on chartered flights. So an average trip takes you about 10, 15 million naira public money. Who does that?
And you can do a few of those in a week.
Who does that?
Maybe twice in a week.
Look, we continue saying Nigeria is poor. Yes, Nigeria is poor, but that is essentially because of the greed of a few. If we manage our resources well, we won't be where we are now because we are endowed. Naturally, we are endowed. And we have the human capacity to really drive this country. But the few who are there are not there for service. So when you say public servants, they are not there for service. They are there for self-aggrandizement. And because they don't care about the people, that is why they go out of their way to rig elections, to kill, to maim. Nobody kills, maims, rigs election to serve public good. It is not done. Anybody who gives you money for you to vote for him is not coming there to serve you. He's coming there in the first place, he's going to recoup whatever he has spent before any other thing. And as long as there is no difference between private and public till in this country, we'll continue to be in the mess that we are in. Look, it is even better at the center. If you go to some states, when a governor travels, the state comes to a standstill.
Just presidents moving from island to mainland. You have to be praying and plan your life. If not, third mainland bridge, a part will be cordoned off.
That is even presidential movement, as they call it. That is different from what I'm talking about.
Yeah, activities in the state.
Everything comes to a standstill because the governor is the state writ large. The governor is the state. So if he's out of there, nothing
can happen. Oh, okay, I get what you mean.
And most of these governors live in Abuja virtually. So until they come back, nothing. Everything is grounded. No country runs like that.
Quite so. Now, there's another big story here. The return of Fubara, September 18. Fubara eyes September 18 comeback as IBAS pushes project completion in Cross River State. What do you make of this? In River State, I beg your pardon.
Of course, that's the pseudo-democracy that we have.
Does it mean that the crisis, the so-called security lapse that was going to happen, the fear, the reason why Admiral Ibas was appointed in the first place, that danger has been averted? There's now peace in River State, and the issue of the security concerns have been resolved. So you don't see an extension to this. You think Mr. Fubara will be back in Government House, Port Harcourt, on September the 18th?
The only security issue that those who suspended Fubara saw was Fubara. Fubara was the security threat that they saw. Now that they have contained him, in quotes, maybe the security threat has been removed. Now, Fubara is going into that office, if he goes back, defanged.
De-winged.
De-winged. He's not going to play the role a governor ought to play. He has now ceded all these things back to Wike, the Federal Capital Territory Minister, which was the issue, ab initio. If by the end of this month, IBAS is going to conduct local government election, which is an illegality, and conducting local government election means that you are returning Wike to power in the grassroots in River State. So the budget going forward will now be that Wike will approve. So Fubara is going to be mere figurehead, and he has accepted all these conditions. So there's no longer any security threat. The security threat was not that there was anything going on in River State that so much endangered the peace of the state.
So the threat, you think, is because he wasn't playing ball with the powers that be?
That was all.
Okay.
That was all.
I wonder what's going to be left of his time in office. Like you say, he's going to go back the winged, and I wonder
Defanged and dewind. Yep.
If the people of Rivers State will get
And
the governor
declawed.
that they voted in.
They won't.
It's what a shame.
They won't.
Okay. I want to
They will get a governor that Bola Ahmed Tinubu, president of Nigeria, is giving them, and that governor is not the Fubara that the people elected. This is a mere. I'm sorry to say, there is going to be more or less like an effigy in the government house.
So
and
from
power is going to reside outside that government house.
going from a lion and a tiger to a pussycat.
Yeah.
Let's look at another story. Very
This one of the big, big story in the
Customs
Vanguard.
issue
Okay.
14-day deadline to seize 905 overtime cargoes. I'm aware you're following the FOB. You've seen importers, exporters crying about the increase in tariff, and now Custom is telling them that in 14 days, if cargoes remain there, they're going to seize them, 905 of them.
It is still part of this, Joe, it is still part of this cost of doing business in Nigeria. You can't, because you want to generate revenue. Now, Customs wants to come out every time to tell us how many trillions of naira they have generated. And you are frustrating people who are doing legitimate business. You are almost driving them out of business. Because when you hike tariffs, import duties, beyond what these people can afford to pay, that is why most people now divert to Benin Republic, to Cotonou, or even to other countries within the ECOWAS sub-region in order to clear their goods. Because what you pay in Nigeria to clear goods is simply outrageous. But of course now the government is doubling down on all this because the only level of governance that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu understands is money, money, bring in more money, bring in more money. That was what informed the removal of fuel subsidy. That was what informed the increase in electricity tariff and all that. But you're not talking about the people. Many people are going out of business. The importers are no longer in business. And if you drive people out of business, you're going to make unemployment worse than it was. So how can you actually solve the problem of the economy?
All right. You know what? Let's hold on. We'll come back. We're going to a very quick break. We'll come back and we'll take the last lap reviewing the papers. Please stay with us.
You're welcome back to News Central TV, Breakfast Central, and we're still looking at the newspaper front pages. We have Mr. Ikechukwu Amechi here for analysis on the big stories. Olive, before we went on the break,
yes,
while we were on the break, speaking of
about,
camera, we're talking about a very important issue.
And it's a story that has reflected in the next two papers, that's the Daily Independent as well as the Vanguard. On the front page of the Daily Independent, the big story there, Nigerians to provide 5-year social media activity, according to the U.S. Embassy. And Vanguard also reports, federal government vows equal response as U.S. tightens visa rules.
Visa for visa.
So, a summary of what they're saying here is, if you're to apply for a U.S. visa as a Nigerian, you have to provide your social media accounts, every social media accounts that you've used in the past 5 years. And you cannot omit anyone. If you have, maybe those of you who have used multiple names and you've opened several accounts, you must name every single thing. If you have an anonymous account you're using to troll people, you must name it. And the implication of
because they have a way of finding out.
Exactly. The implication of not listing every social media handle in your D160 application is that you could be denied your visa and you might be barred from future applications.
I mean, getting to America
What did we
seems very, very
You know what
hard.
came to my mind just before Mr. Amechi
think-
speaks? I mean, as we were winding down, I thought to myself this morning when I heard the story. I mean, and I said to myself, if only Africa, in its immense knowledge, was able to also focus in developing its own app,
Exactly.
you won't be able to tell. I mean, imagine Africa
Who
telling
wants to,
you
I mean,
that.
America is just one country in
But then again-
in over 200 countries. Is it heaven?
Well, anyway, so that's the update. It says if you've used more than, yes, it's not just platform. Applicants who have also used more than one platform or more than one username, handle, or telephone number on a single platform within the same period are also mandated to list them in the DS-160 form. Now, the federal government of Nigeria has also said that they're going to give equal response, and that every American who's also coming to Nigeria, they'll be treating them in the same way that they've treated us Nigerians.
Yeah, if you're coming in from Minnesota, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, you have to do the same for us. You know what I'm saying?
It's already because your take on this diplomacy row. Or like my friend would say, diplomacy rule.
What Trump is trying to do, unfortunately, he is not the president of the world. He is the president of the United States of.
But he said so. He said. I remember the video. He said he's the president. Was a world president.
He is not.
You know,
He is not. He's the
In the
president.
world of Washington.
He's the president of the United States of America. He can't do this to the Chinese because, look, he's only doing this to those people he thinks. Trump is a bully. And the psychology of a bully is that if he thinks he can bully you, there are no limitations.
And he also thinks he won't get a response. Yes.
To what he will do to you. But he can't bully Russia. He gave Putin a 50-day ultimatum to agree to a peace deal. He reduced it to 12 days. All of a sudden,
He still rolled out red carpet for him in Alaska.
he is now holding a peace talk, and Putin got there and did not give him any
definite feedback. Yeah.
any deal. And he's breathing down on the neck of Zelensky because that's the country and the man he can bully. So it is Trump being Trump. But you know, what it means is that he's telling Nigerians not to come. I think it's as simple as that. I don't blame him. I blame our leaders that have made our country a good-for-nothing country, a laughing stock. Because if Nigeria were to harness its potentials, if we were to have a leadership that will rise to the occasion, I don't think any country in the world will treat us the way Trump is beginning to treat Nigerians. What is simply telling you, stay in your country, don't come to my country. And it is high time we introspect. We begin to ask ourselves, what is it we are not doing well? Unfortunately, I don't see a change of heart in what the leadership of this country is doing.
But we've said we will reciprocate.
But in all fairness to Trump, I think this also I don't know if it was Trump in office in 2019, because this rule, I think why it's come back again is because there was a tweet, because I've just checked their page, the U.S. mission Nigeria, U.S. in Nigeria had put out a tweet. But I know that this was announced in 2019, was introduced in 2019.
He was in office in 2019.
Yeah,
Joe
so
Biden
true.
came into office in 2020 and left in 2024.
So it's his thing.
So it's still his thing.
And talking about countries and development, if you look at the front page of the Vanguard and also the front page of the Daily Independent, can we have those papers up, please? There's something I want to point at. That it shows that. Can we have producers, please? Can we have the front page of the Vanguard newspaper?
All right, so which story are you talking about?
Yeah, the front page picture.
Oh, that's a picture of President Bola Tinubu being received by Ambassador
Yes.
Idio Mastubara.
So the president has gone to Japan for the 9th Tokyo International Conference on Africa Development. There's a Russia-Africa Conference, there's a Turkey-Africa Conference, there's a US-Africa Conference, UK-Africa Conference. Everybody is talking about the growth and development of Africa, apart from Africans ourselves. And, you know, when these world leaders summon African leaders, they are always quick to go there with their entourage. And are there any tangible benefits to this, or is it just a talk show?
None.
And is it about time the African Union steps up and rise to their responsibilities? Because the other day I heard an analyst, he said, you know, African Union is an old boys club for dictators. That's what they just do there, because it's gone to the level of, it's almost insulting, because everybody has a Russia, an Africa summit where they just summon African leaders. And what do the people gain out of all this?
If we get our acts together, Africa has enormous resources. In fact, more resources than, look, the resources in a country like Congo, even Nigeria, are some of the premium natural resources that the world needs to develop. They need us, but leadership is failing Africa completely. They said the analysis you said that somebody made was spot on. Look at Paul Biya. What is Paul Biya doing in Cameroon? And the man still wants to contest election. What are all these dinosaurs doing in African countries, calling themselves leaders? The man in Cote d'Ivoire is about to change the constitution, or has actually changed the constitution to go for a 4th term, which was not there in the constitution in the first place. So they will continue to insult us. They will continue to insult us as long as we refuse, as Africans, as black people, to put our hands together. Why is it that African countries don't also summon European leaders to these Nasomis in Africa? Why is it, like you said, almost every other country in the world, China will call, and all the African presidents will pack themselves in aeroplanes and fly?
I don't remember when there was a terrorist attack in Paris on François Hollande. They did Je suis Paris. Presidents of the Sahel states, all of them just packed them. They were walking on their hand in hand on the streets of Paris, saying no to terrorism. It's just it's absurd.
It is sad. It will remain so as long as we have leaders in Africa who don't seem to understand what it is. Okay, President Bola Tinubu has gone to Japan. Let us see what he's going to return with. For 2 years now, he recalled all Nigerian ambassadors from all the foreign missions. 2 years down the road, he is not able to reconstitute. And you know the role ambassadors play. They are our eyes and ears. They speak for us. They intercede. Now, there is no point of contact between us and all these other countries. And President Tinubu is jumping into every available flight to go out there. Is he
He's taking the role of chief diplomat.
when a chief diplomat, what has he been able to achieve? They're talking about foreign direct investment, and they are lying about it. How many investors have come in into the country?
We have to wrap up the conversation now because we've come to the end of the show. Mr. Ikechukwu Amechi, thank you for joining us. Thank you to our earlier guests. Thank you to our audience who have joined us. I'm going to wrap up the show with a headline on the front page of the Vanguard that says, paternity crisis. 1 in 4 Nigerian fathers are not biological parents.
No DNA needed.
2025 DNA annual testing report. It was released by a Lagos-based genetic testing company. Disclosed that 25% of paternity tests conducted between July 2024 and June 2025 showed that the presumed fathers were not biologically related to the children in question.
Well, for the men on set here,
on that note, we wrap up the show.
let's wrap it up.
Is uncanny. My 2 children, I know I'm the one that born them.
This is how we wrap up the show today. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
No DNA needed.